I honestly don't think a lot of brands think about trust and why their clients should trust them. So I think that's probably the number one thing they do wrong is they don't consider that in the online presence. Another thing is I think they feel that social is an advertising channel and it's much more than an advertising channel. It can be an advertising channel, but it is much more connection and conversation and trust building, like you said. I think that that's where a lot of people get it wrong.
Welcome, everyone. I'm really excited for today's conversation. Joining me is Nicole Porter, founder of Monomoy Social Media. Nicole's work is all about making social media feel less overwhelming. The social media made hassle-free angle, and she's built Monomoy around strategy, consistent execution, and helping small businesses and non-profits drive real-world outcomes like traffic and sales. Her path here is not the usual marketing origin story. She was a chocolatier and small business owner before building an agency and consulting practice. And I'm really glad to have such beautiful woman and a great leader on today's show. Welcome, Nicole. Happy to have you here.
Thank you so much. That was such a nice introduction.
Yes, you deserved it. You deserved it. Can you tell us a bit about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, so what I am Nicole Porter. My business is Monomoy Social Media, and we have been in business for 8.5 years now. And we mainly focus on full service execution for small businesses and nonprofits. So, what that means is we take it completely off of their plate. We do everything for them, from their strategy to their content, and we do their interaction as well, which is really important because it is marketing. It's not marketing media, it's social media. So it's important to talk to other people on these platforms. And we do a lot of outreach for our clients as well, which makes a big difference for them. And so that's our bread and butter. That's what we do is the organic social for all kinds of businesses and nonprofits.
Organic social for all kinds of businesses. Did you need any schooling or a degree for such position?
So I did. So I do have a degree in marketing, but like I told you during our first conversation, Mark Zuckerberg was still building Facebook in his dorm room when I got my degree in marketing. So it was a while ago, and so they didn't have social media. Think it's important though to have that base in marketing and really understand the basics of it and what it's all about. And then I went into the chocolate field for 10 years. And when I decided to go full time into social media, I took a few courses and really made sure that I understood it just beyond what I had been doing for myself and my chocolate business. And so I really dove deep into it and had some practice clients and everything before I went full time and did it for other people.
Great, really great, really great. Diving on to today's theme, how local business build community online versus big brands. When you hear the phrase trust factor online, what do you think most people get it wrong? And what do local businesses actually do behaviorally that earns trust faster than big brands can?
I honestly don't think a lot of brands think about trust and why their clients should trust them. So I think that's probably the number one thing they do wrong is they don't consider that in the online presence. Another thing is I think they feel that social is an advertising channel and it's much more than an advertising channel. It can be an advertising channel, but it is much more connection and conversation and trust building, like you said. So I think that that's where a lot of people get it wrong is they don't think about building trust, first of all, and then they don't think of the platforms as a place where they're able to do that. And there are so many strategies and tactics you can use on social media to build that trust factor that people are looking for.
When you say they don't think about building trust, instead of them not thinking about building trust, what do they think in place of that then?
I think from my own experience, they are more focused on getting their message out and getting people to see them and buy their products or services, right? So that's their main goal when they go onto a social platform. Like, let's say we have a plumber, right? A small local plumber. He's trying to get more clients and he's going out and he's saying, "This is what I do for my clients. I fix pipes and sinks." And that's what he's going to put out there. Whereas if they were thinking differently, they might be able to show different behind the scenes and talk to people and be a part of the community and really build that trust, right? Because if I have somebody coming in my home, I want to know that they're going to be a trustworthy person. And so there's a lot to be said for building that trust. But I don't think people when they're thinking about putting their content out on social, they're looking at it as, a billboard or a magazine or something like that, a TV ad, a radio ad, where you're just saying, this is what I do and this is why I do it better than the other people. And they're not thinking about the emotional aspect of what you can really do with the platforms.
They're not thinking about the emotional aspect. Wow, that's a sharp distinction. I think a lot of us focus on the aesthetics of trust, but you are talking about the real behavior of trust, and that's a huge mindset shift. Wow, wow, impressive. And I've noticed big brands can just buy audience with their big budgets, and but local businesses have to build this kind of belonging. How do you define community operationally and specifically for a small team so that it's an actionable system rather than just a buzzword?
That's a really good question. So, there's a lot of ways that you can build community and, I think community too means different things to different people and you can have different communities, right? Like let's go back to that plumber example. So if we have a small local plumber, he might have a community of other plumbers that he can call on. He might have like a local community of people around that hire him. He might have a community within the people that work for him. Um, and so I think community can be taken a lot of different ways, but when I think about using social for to build community, what I mean is build connection and really talk to other people on the platforms. So if you're trying to build connection with other plumbers, right? Maybe you're going to comment on other plumbers because in an emergency, maybe you don't have the capacity, but they do. Or maybe, they offer a service that you don't and you can work hand in hand. Maybe one's residential and one's commercial. Um, and very similar with if you're trying to become a part of your community, I really think not only are you going out and, posting about like commenting on other people's posts that are in the community, right? Like, so looking at your chamber of commerce, your Rotary Club, your community centers, like all these places that are centers of the community, right? Like if you are showing up at these places and commenting on their posts and interacting and giving of yourself, that's really a great way to connect with your community. So it can be as much about the engagement as it is about the content that you're putting out. And so those things are going to work hand in hand. So if you're thinking about your content and creating community, you instead of posting, these are my services, this is what I do, same day service, really fast, whatever you're posting about with your plumbing company, you might show behind the scenes, or maybe you're showing, hey, my plumbing company is a Toys for Tots drop off this season, and I'm collecting toys for kids in the community that don't have as much. Or I'm out at somebody's house and there was an older woman and this guy that works for us carried her groceries in. He's not just there for plumbing. He's, really a caring, thoughtful person, right? So showing those organic moments that happen naturally and those behind the scenes, very raw things can really help you connect with your audience and create that sense of trust and community that people are looking for.
And upon creating that audience, for any small business or for any founder who is owning a startup, for how can that person augment his community as well?
So a lot of that comes naturally through that engagement piece that I talked about. So there are there are a few ways to increase the number of people that are engaging with you and following you. One is being consistent, right? So if you just post once a month or whenever you feel like it or sporadically, you're not gonna create that community you're looking for and that trust. So posting consistently, even if it's once a week, is very, very important. And then engaging, like I was talking about before, if you start engaging and you do that on a regular basis, again, consistency really matters here. People will start to see you. They will see you engaging, they'll see your post because you're active on your chosen platform, whether that's Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn, wherever you might be. If you're consistent on that platform and you're consistently once a week or twice a week going out and commenting on other people's posts, you're really going to start seeing that return because people will see you and
Wow.
your visibility will
Yeah.
increase and they'll start to follow you. Um, and then there's always boosted ads, which is, that's recommended only in very specific situations. But if you really want to get your visibility up and you want to build some of that, know, like, and trust that we're talking about, you can push out things for a very low budget. But I always recommend people have a very specific reason behind that. You really want to either have a specific promotion or a specific message you want to get out. I don't recommend just boosting to boost. So, that is another way to
Wow.
do it if you want to.
That that is pure gold. Speaking about consistency, you remembered me about a small gym called Fit Co Gym in Cleveland, Ohio, who was competing with bigger gym companies, and their breakthrough wasn't any flashy ads. It was consistent posting of their training tips, members winning, and they were actually replying to people daily. And in just 90 days of consistent posting and interaction, the social gem pages generated over 12,000 impressions and 1,000 link clicks, driving many locals to learn more. And even more impressively, as the gym ramped up its social activities, saw a 50% jump in reach and a 60% increase in new member signups, which is the conversion compared to their previous period. For such local businesses, why does consistency build trust so fast? And what does it communicate to people subconsciously?
Yeah, that's such a great example, that gym. Consistency, number one, most people aren't doing it. So you really stand out because there are so few people that actually sit down and create a consistent strategy that they're going to follow day in and day out. So few people are doing that, both with content and with engagement. So just doing it, you're so far ahead of the curve. The other piece is that people are going to be able to see with your consistent content that who you are and what you do, and That gym example is so great because you think about somebody that's going to go to a gym, right? If you're somebody that's maybe new to a gym and you're not comfortable going to a gym, if you're going to pick a new gym, you want to know what it's like before you even get there. You want to
Yeah,
know who the people are. You want to know that they care about you, right? And
exactly.
that
Yeah.
right there just puts you miles ahead of everybody else by doing that consistent posting. And I think it's really like it's just that they care, right? That's why they are doing this. That's what puts them ahead. They care and they put the effort into it. And like that example you just shared is a perfect example of somebody that prioritizes consistency and really gets the results from doing it.
Oh, I'm so glad you validated that. And I've noticed consistency doesn't just help the algorithm, it's seeking out stability as well. Like the gym example, frequent, reliable posting made people assume this place is active, this place is professional, this is legit. And it's like the consistency becomes a perceived competence for them. And
Yeah.
which tells the market that they are operational and they are present and they are gonna respond and not disappearing after the consumers buy in their product. That's really impressive. And is there any simplest consistency standard you've seen actually move around trust?
The engagement I think is really important. I'm gonna keep hitting that nail because engagement is so, so important. But the other piece I think really is I always tell people do what's manageable for you. So if you're doing your own social, you're not outsourcing it, making sure that you're not overwhelming yourself, because if you think like I have to post every day, you're probably not going to do it, right? So that piece right there, if you say, okay, well, I'm going to post once a week or I'm going to post twice a week, but it's consistent, that's going to do a lot more for you than sporadic posting here and there because you overwhelm yourself. The other piece is it sounds so simple, but put it in your calendar like as an actual appointment. Otherwise, you won't do it. Honestly, like, this is probably the number one thing I tell people. Put it in your calendar and batch your posts out for, a week, a couple weeks, even a month if you can, right? So, you sit down for an hour, you create 4 to 8 posts, and then you can use almost every platform now has their own free in-house scheduler. So you can go right on to Instagram, right through your app, and you can schedule ahead. So they make it so simple for you to just do it all at once. So I would say those are the few things that really make a difference with consistency. Put it in as an appointment. Don't overwhelm yourself and only do what you can manage and batch it out so you do a bunch of posts at one time. And the same thing with engagement. Put it in your calendar, maybe the first 5 minutes of every morning, you're going in and responding to people and commenting on other posts and really starting that snowball of engagement.
Wow, wow, pure good, pure good. Let's make this super practical. What should local brands borrow from big brands, and what should they absolutely ignore because it's killing their authenticity and trust?
Well, I think anything that's like canned or just like a graphically based post that's uninteresting, anything like, bland,
Hmm.
probably throw it away. But one thing that big brands really do well is brand consistency and both visually and with their brand voice. So, when you see Coca-Cola or Pepsi or Walmart or any of those huge brands, you always know when a post is coming from them or anything you see out in the wild, right? Because they're so consistent with their branding and with their positioning and with their voice. So that's something I think small businesses really could use a little bit more of. So, making sure you're always using like the same few colors that are in your brand, making sure you're
Yeah.
using the same fonts, making sure that you're using the same voice, right? Like, so if you're a more upbeat brand or motivational, you want to stay with that type of voice most of the time so that people start to recognize, okay, this is what this brand is all about. And so I think that's something that big brands really do right. And smaller companies don't have the bandwidth a lot of the time to think about these things, and it is important to be able to maintain. That's another piece of that consistency that you don't really talk about a lot. You talk about the content and the engagement, but um, consistent branding is really important as well.
And when you mentioned is should then small local businesses hire a consultant to aid them in these consistencies, or they can just look up to these big brands?
You know, it depends, right? It depends if they can afford it. It depends on what their goals are. But I think one of the things I recommend is getting it right from the start, getting things set up correctly, because it's a lot harder to change things down the road. So, you know, it's kind of that old adage, the best time to plant a tree was 10 years ago and the second best time is today. If you're starting now, you're starting now, and that's great. But the sooner you can start, the better. Getting everything set up correctly, getting your branding correct, getting, your consistency planned out, because it's going to go a lot further for you if you have everything set up in the beginning. So, should you hire a consultant? I mean, if you can, yes, but if you can't, you can't. And you can learn a lot from, the internet and everything else right now. So,
Yeah. Yeah, nice, nice, nice. I notice you also call out compliance that's helping regulated industries like cannabis, finance, healthcare stay within rules while still engaging and growing. That seems like the ultimate trust challenge. You can't say everything and you can't promise everything. What are your best strategies for building trust when your messaging is constrained?
well, that is such a good question. So, I think one thing that people really have to realize is that just because you are showing some things and you are showing behind the scenes doesn't mean you have to show everything. This comes into all of those industries you just talked about with cannabis and healthcare and finance comes a lot into play with nonprofits as well. So you can still show a lot without showing everything, and you don't have to show everything to gain people's trust. So you can still show behind the scenes content. You can still show the people that work there and have them talk. You can still show your space and you can talk about how you work with people without showing patient information, client information, actual clients. Even some of these industries you can't show testimonials and whatnot, but there are other ways to talk about, hey, I helped somebody with this today, right? Like, so you're saying how you helped, but you're not saying, you're not giving financial advice. You're not giving the client's name and things like that. So there's a lot of ways that you can show a lot of what you do without giving away sensitive information and, going against someone's trust. So I think the main thing really is helping people connect with the folks that work in your company. So just having them talk and hearing their voice and showing the space and showing how they approach their work, that builds trust, far beyond some of the other stuff that you don't even have to show to build that.
Showing your work builds trust. Thanks so much for your insights, Nicole. This was incredibly valuable and I appreciate your time and openness. Thank you very much.
This was fun. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yes, yes. Guys, that's a wrap for today. If this conversation resonated with you, don't hesitate to share with your friends and your business colleagues. See you in the next episode.